Welcome to the management panel with some wonderful guests who I'm sure are going to teach all of us a lot over the next 50 minutes. Before we get started and introduce them, how many artists are in the audience? How many managers or aspiring managers? Great. My name is Sheri Jones. I work in the East Coast music industry. I've been doing it for a very, very long time. That's enough of that. Now we're going to move on, and Katrina is going to tell us a little bit about herself.
Sure. My name's Katrina. I have a management company called KL Management. I'm based in Toronto, but actually originally from Nova Scotia, from Cole Harbour.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and I went to SMU. I manage pop artists and pop R&B artists. I manage Shawn Desman, another artist named TiKA, who's a pop R&B soul artist, and another artist named Mandia, based in Ottawa, who is pop R&B.
Hi, my name's Paulette Long. I'm based in the United Kingdom, in London. I've been working in the music industry for just over 34 years, and I've worked in a number of different areas, from artist management to public relationships, public relations even, marketing. But for the most part, I've sat on within the music publishing community for an independent publishing company, and also sat as director at PRS for music, and the Music Publishers Association, and a number of other things. I started my career working for a management company. In the middle of my career, I managed music producers, and now at this side of my career, I've just picked up a new singer, songwriter, cellist that I'm also managing.
Wonderful. And Melissa is sitting in for us. Alanna couldn't make it, so Melissa.
So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Melissa McMaster. I own an urban hip-hop management and music licensing company here in Halifax called 902 Hip Hop. Most of you are familiar with my artists: Nicole Ariana, Bonjay, Quake Matthews, KO, Thrilla, Matty Galaxy, Pat's Day.
Well done.
Cool. Great. How did you get into artist management, Melissa?
So for me, I got into artist management because my background was business. So I worked in startup in tech for about 7 years, teaching business skills to new startups. I got asked one day to come in and teach business to a group of artpreneurs, and everyone in that group ended up being young hip-hop artists, emerging producers. And I quickly noticed that my kind of skill set working in just kind of the regular business was not transferable quite yet into like the music industry. So I had to learn quickly about all the different kind of revenue streams that existed within music. I knew nothing about the hip-hop scene. I listened to like top 40 music. So I quickly just started going out to a lot of shows, meeting a lot of people within the community, and just fell in love with kind of hip-hop and seeing a lot of opportunities that existed here in Halifax. And I kind of just slowly moved into artist management, and really Quake Matthews was kind of like my first like real client that I started working with, and things just kind of went from there, and then we added the music licensing onto our company about a year ago.
Great. You're talking about different skills. A manager is often, I don't know if you're familiar with that old saying, jack of all trades, master of none. You kind of have to know enough about everything to oversee the other team members you're working with. Katrina, how would you describe the role of a manager in 2 sentences?
In 2 sentences, I would say it's creating opportunities to move your career forward. So whether that is gonna change depending on where you are in your career. So it could be, I guess that's 2 sentences.
Paulette, do you have anything to add to that? Just a general description of what an artist manager will do for you, or what an artist manager does if you are an aspiring manager?
I think there are 2 types of artist managers. There are artist managers that work within a big artist management organisation, and that sometimes I find is a lot to do with the business and overview aspect. But there's also artist management on the other side, where it's a one-to-one and it's a really personal, hands-on relationship that covers all spheres of the artist's life, because the artist is a real living, moving person made up of creativity, but made up of partnerships and relationships and family and life. And it's about ensuring that you can manage all aspects of that as well. So I think there come a lot of emotional knowledge comes into working with someone, as well as the business knowledge, hopefully.
What do you think are 3 important skills or traits that contribute to your success as a manager? Melissa, you want to kick us off?
So for me, just even where I'm at, so I consider myself still to be kind of an emerging artist manager, because our company is probably like 3 years old right now. But skill sets that have been very kind of influential or essential to get us to where we're at right now is really just building relationships. So that's, from our success, that's just where we've been able to get everyone to where they are right now, is just on the basis of the relationships that we've built within the industry here in Nova Scotia, in Canada, as well as like in the US and the UK.
I mean, you touched on the business end of things.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more of
So
that.
the question again, it was 3 skills.
3 important skills or traits that you think really contribute to your success as a manager. So, you know, your background, maybe that's...
Yeah, I think relationship, as you said, is really, really important. But I also think temperament and personality that takes you through. So there's ideally a calm side of you that needs to be there. So when everything's kicking off, that manager's able to sort of hold everything in place. So relationship, temperament of the manager, and also leadership, overview and vision, whatever the word is that encapsulates all of that. Am I cheating? That's like 6 words.
Can I answer that?
Absolutely.
I think you really only need 2 things. I think you need a network, you need experience and a network. But I think before you have that, because you have to start somewhere, for me, when I started and I didn't have any experience and I didn't have any network, I got clients through my integrity. And people, all of my early clients told me they signed with me for my integrity. And so now that I have integrity and experience and a network, that's made me successful from the outside. And then for me personally, like on the inside, what makes me successful is being able to like see what's happening and stand in my own truth, like, and have boundaries, because I'm always dealing with emotions, and not allowing myself to kind of attach to like what my artist is feeling. So sometimes if they're, because it's, you know, it's very vulnerable. I know I'm going way over the 3 minute. It's a very, you know, as an artist, it's a very vulnerable place, and you're putting yourself out into the world, and that is going to generate a lot of emotions with rejection, with anxiety. And it's important that you have someone that can kind of be the calm in the storm and know when something is actually like true and when it's something that's an internal storm that's happening. So for me, that has been the hardest challenge, is not, because emotions are contagious. And when it's excitement, it's great that we're all excited. But when it's not, and when it's a more negative emotion, it's important to not have that contagious.
So do you have a standard kind of phrase you use with any of your clients when they are getting emotional and you think it's over emotional? Like, do you have a what? You're grinning, so maybe you have one.
Everything's gonna be fine.
Like, okay, take a deep breath, or I think that you're making a bit more of this. Like, are you able to talk them down?
Oh, I would never say you're making more of this. That's for me.
Yeah.
I deal with a variety of things. So some of them are like tangible. Like I have an artist who is petrified of flying. Right. So, I mean, that is a very real, in the moment, breathe, stop, breathe. Like, it's going to be fine. In other cases where it's like, for example, the song's not charting the way you expect it will, or some other artist is doing something, or they're not getting... I work with a lot of young people, so sometimes it's about their Instagram likes, and I don't have a specific, I don't think, catchphrase, but it is all kind of comes down to, like, stop, okay, let's look at this outside of how you're feeling.
What I've been doing lately with my artists, and that's the two of us doing it together, which works really well, is we're just not allowed to moan. So we give ourselves 24-hour periods where we check in, but we're just not allowed to moan, because when we actually look at where we are, what we're doing, and how blessed we are, we realise there's just no reason to be miserable. So we do this thing and we check in. Are you moaning? Stop moaning. And it's like, once you start to look at where you are and where you sit and what you have, look at the positive aspects of what you have, then the negative things disappear in comparison, because you often have so much more going and happening for you than you realise. So we just do this thing where we're not allowed to moan, and that usually helps. You kind of start it and you think, no, I'm all right, it's a good day, the car's still working, I have petrol in the car, there's food on the table, and it just clears it up. So we just go through this thing, no moaning, and that tends to work.
Managers and artists, I think, their personality is they're always striving. So
Yeah.
you're not necessarily celebrating the successes. You win an award
Yeah.
and you go, okay, that's amazing, and you're already planning what you're going to get do the next day to keep pushing it forward. So I think it's really important. Melissa, did you have anything to add to that?
For me, like, each one of my artists are so different, and they all have their different kind of little situations. So I guess for me, when I'm working with the artist, it's more so just kind of understanding how to approach them and what's going to work and what's not going to work for them. So the same way, like, I talk with Nicole is going to be different to, the way I kind of deal with Bonjay if something happens, or, with Quake or whoever it's going to be, or with Pat Stay. So everyone's mood is completely different. But at the same time, it's just realizing that, everything's going to be fine. Whatever the situation is, we're going to be able to kind of work through it. And again, it's like, most of the times, too, it's realizing, like, we're so blessed to be where we're at right now. And, especially if it's a time of frustration or whatnot, it's like, look where we've gotten to date and look at all the struggles and things that we've overcome. And why can't we overcome this right now? Yeah. And what have we done in the past? And, what's going to be our plan right now? And I think for us, and I know a lot of other artists can probably kind of relate to this, like, one of the things that we always kind of say is, like, it's going to feel so good when we win, because we know exactly how hard we worked for this and who helped us and who didn't and what the struggles, everything that we overcame together. So that's kind of how we end every conversation, is like, when we win, like, it's going to feel so good.
Yeah.
In that sense, so.
I mean, we're all talking about feeling blessed and how lucky we are. And I really do. I've been doing this, over 30 years at least. And I still wake up every single day, and I'm really excited to get up and go to work. And, you're working a lot more than a 40-hour work week, but if you love what you do, what does that say? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm just full of that shit today.
Sheri had her happy pill.
Yeah, exactly. But, so I know there's aspiring managers in the audience. What advice would you give them? Where would you tell them to go start? Like, get an artist, volunteer to work with someone else?
I would say get a mentor to start. Mentorship had a huge impact on my career, because I left Nova Scotia, went to Toronto. I started as an assistant to a booking agent, just because I wanted to meet a lot of people in a short amount of time and meet a lot of artists. But at that time, it was Sony BMG, and the president there really took me under her wing. And, I mean, it changed my career. So I highly recommend people get mentors in any career, but...
I didn't have a mentor. There were people that I looked up to, and I might look at what they did and copy it. But I think, for me, this sector, the creative sector, is one of the sectors where you just do it. I just say, just do it. If you see a band, if you want to do A&R a band, and then try and get a deal with a label. If you want to do artist management, go and find artists that you want to manage. Learn about it on the job. You want to be a songwriter, go and write songs. You want to be a photographer, go and take pictures. For me, it's like, if you want to do it, just do it. If you can get a mentor while you're doing it, brilliant. If you can study the thing that you're working on whilst you're doing it, brilliant. But more than anything, get up, put your heart into it, and just do it. responsibility.
Yeah, I would have to agree, obviously, with both of you girls.
However.
No.
Ooh.
For me, it's like you have to have such a crazy work ethic and like this hustle mentality. And I think that's like that's kind of my trait. Like that's what makes me good at what I do, is because like I live and breathe like the guys that I rep and Nicole, and just what I want to do for 902 hip hop in like as a legacy and like in the long run. But everything that got us to this point was learning by doing, making mistakes, failing, getting up and keep going. And you have to believe in yourself like so much that you're going to get back up and you're going to keep going. So, you know, sometimes Quake will do like live Facebook things before a show. And people are like, oh, how did you get this show? How did you go on tour? And like to this day, like Quake doesn't have a booking agency. It's like we pick up that phone every single time that we want to do a show. And when people are like, well, how did, like, they didn't respond to my email, they didn't call me back. Well, send them a follow-up, call again. Like, if you're at a conference, like, go and talk to somebody. It's like you have to make that effort to grow and to kind of get into this industry. And you're going to keep doing it, like, each time you grow. So, you know, yes, now we know who, say, the Canadian bookers are. And if we're moving into the UK, if we're trying to break into Atlanta, it's like, now I got to go back to, you know, step one, the same way, you know, we built it here, and start building that into, you know, a new city, a new country. So I find the best way that you're going to learn is learning by doing. And it's the same whether you're a manager or an artist. Like, if something happened to me tomorrow, Quake's going to be all right. Right? And so as an artist, like, you want to be able to have control of that, and to know that, well, you know, if Melissa's off here doing that, that's cool. Like, I'm just going to pick up the phone or send that email, and you have that drive to do that. And I think that's what's so special about kind of the relationships that I have with my artists that I work with, is that I have really great strengths, but I have really bad weaknesses as well. So does my crew. And so we balance that. So, like, I hate calling and booking, right? But, you know, Quake will go and do that. Or people will hit Quake up, and I'll just get the email and say, can you do the contract? Yeah, I'll do that contract, no problem. So it's just kind of figuring out what you like to do, what you don't like to do, and then working together as a team to kind of keep moving forward. And, yeah.
Great. Katrina, is there anything you wish you'd done differently when you started out? Do you look back and think, I wish I'd done that, or I would advise a new young manager to do that differently?
Not really. I mean, I wouldn't recommend someone do it the way I did, but I don't want to say I would do it differently, because then I wouldn't be where I am. But I mean, when I left Nova Scotia, I left with like $300 and a visa to make it in the music business, and it worked out. But it was just the ignorance of youth and not knowing how difficult that was really going to be, and so it's not necessarily the path I would suggest someone take. But I do definitely think you should jump in and do it. For me, it was sink or swim. That was how I looked at it, because everyone told me, have a day job, do this on the side. When this works out, you know, then you can make it your full time. And I just felt like if I do this part time, I'm going to get part time results. So I'm just going full time, all in. When I say that, I don't mean artist management, but music. Anything that was music related that would move my career forward. So.
Are any of you musicians?
No, I'm not.
No.
Paulette, what can an artist do to make themselves more attractive as a management client?
I think it's about recognizing that it's a partnership. What really puts me off is when somebody comes and it's all they're doing is, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? What can you do? What they've got no idea, no thought, no vision, no plan, no matter how sketchy. That really is off-putting. for me, it's a business and a partnership, and I get my energy from the energy of the artist. So when an artist comes and they're on their game and they know what they're about and what they want to do, and they've just got a gem of a seed of an idea and a vision, that's when I work my best, because I can take that seed, plant it, and then help to grow it. But when there's nothing there, it's really hard, unless I'm the kind of manager that just wants to put a 4-piece girl group together and just throw them out there to do vague pop things for one season. But outside of that, it really is about the partnership. You come with your creativity, your vibe, your energy, your vision, and I'll come with my expertise, my time, and my assistance, and together we should be able to nurture that seed and enable it to grow.
For me, it's just like your work ethic. So everyone's talented. So like to me, like talent can't be your differentiator. So for me, like my group, can't talk. It's really everyone's work ethic. So that's the first thing that I look for all the time, is because I know how hard like I'm working to make you guys successful. So if you can't come with that work ethic, then it's not going to work out in that sense. So that's the one thing like I always look for, is just noticing what artists' work ethic is like. And the same thing, like a lot of people will hit my DMs up just talking about management, and the first thing I go back is I always say, well, what are you looking for? And everyone's like, well, I just want to book some shows. And I'm like, I'm not a booking agent, and that's like my worst skill set. So I'm not going to be helpful over there. But I can give you a little bit of advice on how you do it. And typically, like, that's what happens. Like, I didn't go out and say, Quake Matthews, I'm going to manage you. Thriller, I'm going to manage you type of thing. It's like these relationships just happen organically. And I always look at this as, I always use the analogy of a relationship. So with all my artists, like it just started off, okay, well, let's work together for like 3 months and see how that goes. Okay, cool. Like we're traveling a little bit. Like traveling is a huge part of like my life. So if we can't travel together, then it's not going to work out. So it's just like traveling, doing shows together, and then like okay, we made it through 3 months. That's cool. Let's set some more goals and see if we can accomplish that. And then it's like, okay, we get into a year, and it's like, okay, this is going to work. Well, technically, we feel like it's going to work, and just keep growing on kind of that. And just as any type of relationship is, like things work out and things don't. And I think you just have to be okay with that as well. But for me, that's kind of how I approach it, is just knowing what your work ethic is. And some people might look at me and say, she's a really great manager. Look at what she's done for the guys. But you have to also be able to work with how I work in that sense. So like some days I don't work in the morning. Some days I work at night. Sometimes I'm in Halifax for a week. Sometimes I'm in Atlanta for 3 weeks, right? So I'm not, like my schedule isn't consistent either. So to me, it's like a two-way street. So that's why I like that relationship of like, let's do something for 3 months and see how it works. So you can feel out kind of how I work as a manager to see even if I'm right for you in that sense.
Is there anywhere any of you look for a new client, or, whether it's a streaming service or a label that you work with who brings you new talent, or an event like this, or for the most part, are people coming to you?
For me, for the most part, people come to me, but I am always actively looking. But usually there's some kind of synchronistic connection that happens, whether it's someone introduces us that we both know well. I've met some clients on set, like, for random reasons. So yeah, I would say a mix of all three. I mean, I don't look for anyone streaming-wise. I definitely need to have a live experience, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not. I don't think I go out looking at all. I think I've tended to manage people that I know and I have a relationship with in one way or another. And because I do sort of coaching and mentoring, I find that that's a way. And I go out and do lots of talks and sit on panels. I oftentimes discover artists that way, and then we build a relationship through communication, and maybe at a point decide to take it a step further. So for me, it's a real natural progression, because I'm aware of how much of life management takes. And if you're going to make that decision, you've got to make it in a way that's right, especially when you're a smaller organisation, not a big corporate management company with a big team and everything going. If it's something that's quite hands-on, you need to know that you're making, to the best of your ability, the right decision. And the best way to do that is to test the waters. As you've said, test the waters first.
Did any of you see or hear any artists this week that you're going to kind of keep tabs on as time progresses? Did you see artists and think, I'd be interested to know where that artist is going to be in a year or what they're going to do next?
I mean, yeah, I saw a lot of talent. I mean, there was some talent I was really excited to see because about a year ago, I came out here and did a master class, and about half of them are performing this weekend. Some of them last night. So it was cool for me to be able to see them perform live. I mean, and there's a lot of talent that I'm just excited to see, but I mean, they've already have management, so I'm not looking for them in that capacity. I just like to keep up on talent and yeah.
Do any of you ever co-manage with anyone who's not on your immediate team?
I don't, but I would definitely co-manage. I think that's a good way forward, especially if the co-manager. Sometimes it's because they're in another territory and that's quite useful, and other times it's because they've got a completely different skill set that's useful to that artist, and again that works. I'm always one for working with people who know what they're doing and know how to do it right, so I definitely work in that way.
Yeah, so like KO, I co-manage KO with another management company based out of Toronto, and that's been a really great experience so far because there's lots of things that I can't do because I'm not in Toronto, so they're able to be there all the time. So that relationship so far has been working out really well, and it's the same in Atlanta. Like we have kind of a business partner that we work with in Atlanta, and the same thing. Like they're on the ground all the time. They have those connections there, and so they're able to kind of set up and line things up for us that way. And same with the UK. There's another manager that I do some co-management work to. And so far, all those co-management relationships have been really great because they have the expertise in that territory or in that city. So when we come over, it's like everything's kind of set up for us and we're walking into kind of a situation that's already kind of laid out, or like meetings that are already set up that are at the level that they should be. And we're not like just landing and like trying to hustle opportunities and just trying to link up with artists or songwriters to make something happen.
Okay. All right, so we all learn from our mistakes. So this question is not meant to be negative, although I'm sure there could be funny stories if we apply ourselves. But what is a common mistake that you see new managers or unmanaged artists or artists managing themselves make? What is a kind of stumbling block you always see them encounter that you'd like to give them the advice of how to sidestep or what to be careful of?
That's interesting. I think sometimes one of the things that I do hear artists do is they're, even in this time, they're still looking, I need to get a publishing deal, I need to get a recording deal, I need to get a booking agent. And it's not that you don't need all these things, but they do that without actually looking at who they are as an artist. And there's no point getting a manager, a record label, and a booking agent if actually you're a radio artist. You need a plugger, but because you haven't looked at what you're about, you're looking at the wrong things, but you're just sort of staying all the standard things that you hear everybody else saying and aiming for the standard things that you think everybody else, that you think that you should be aiming for. I think for me, one of the things that I always advise artists is, and also managers that are working with artists, is no matter how small you are, there's going to be some income stream coming from somewhere. And have a look at where you're making your most money and focus on that area, and then add everything else on as you go along. So if all you've done in the year is 4 gigs and you've generated $200, and that's it, then that's what you focus on. Try and get 8 gigs. And whilst you're doing your gigs, try and get some CDs that you can sell on the gigs. You've now included recorded material into that. And whilst you're at the gigs, because that's what you know to do, because you did generate $200, get some merchandise. So now you're selling merchandise, you're selling your EPs, and you're doing gigs. And actually, whilst I'm doing the gigs, let me see if I can speak to that radio station over there and get an interview. So now you've added radio airplay potentially onto the fact that you're just doing a gig. So really it's important to focus on the thing that's working for you and then work from that point outwards, as opposed to just, I'm trying to get a record deal.
One step at a time.
And the right step, that's the most important thing. It's got to be the right step. For some artists, it could be that they do need that record deal. Then it's asking different questions. What kind of deal with it? Independent and major. Is it actually a deal I need, or do I just need a good digital distributor so that I can put the stuff out myself? Or am I fooling myself about selling anything? Should I just be focusing on Spotify, because actually I'm a prolific writer and I've got my own studio and I can release records, 10 tracks every month. Maybe I should just be uploading stuff. It's like, ask the question, who are you? And once you can answer that question, then you'll have a better idea of knowing how to move forward.
One thing I always ask people is, how much money did that Instagram post cost you? Because sometimes we make decisions because we want the good look, and we're not making decisions because there's a return on investment for you as an artist. And the return on investment does not always have to be financial. No. It could be, I made these really great relationships. I actually did book some shows. And so that's like one of the biggest things, like I always say, is like, oh, cool, like you're posted up at South by, but how much did you just pay to post that picture so people think like, oh, made it, I'm at South by Southwest? Because on my side, like I've been to South by Southwest, like it's a shit show, right? So it's like I know what South by Southwest looks like, and I know what opportunities come out of South by as an artist, as a manager and whatnot. So that's like, you got it, like regardless if you're an artist, like you still have to have that business mindset, even at like a level 1 per se. Yeah. And it's the same, like, I always say this because, we're very lucky that we receive government funding for every aspect of, like, your music career. But you still have to treat that like if that money was coming out of your pocket. So in the same time, it's like, oh, well, I got booked to play here at this festival across, like, overseas. That's cool. I mean, you can say that. But at the same time, it's like, what's your plan? Why are you going there? And what are you trying to get out of that? Because if you just went to a festival overseas, spent your $1,600 factor money, got some great pictures, and nothing really came out of it, then the artist that's home working in the basement sending out the 10 emails and booked a show at the Seahorse is still better off than you because you just spent $1,600 to go overseas.
Yeah,
so
I think it goes back to you have to have a plan, right? I always say you have to have a plan, and then you have to be flexible enough to change that plan if another great opportunity presents itself.
Well, and to be able to build on opportunities, because if you're going to go and do that show, why not book 4 more shows around there? Make sure that you're connecting with people in that area, or connect with other artists there so you can collaborate, and maybe they can come and do a show here, or you can do a show there.
I think we probably all agree that there's very rarely one thing that's going to be a turning point for your career. It's more a matter of taking an organized approach. And we're talking about money and business. I think you and I are probably the same way. I was like, I'm just going to do it. I don't care about money. I love this. I'll figure it out. But as time has gone on, I've realized that is something that you really do have to pay a lot of attention to, because whether you're an artist or a manager who's managing an artist, the most destructive thing that can happen, or the biggest block that can hold you back, is if you're worried about how am I going to make my rent payment. You can't write a great song when all you're obsessed about is paying your rent. You can't be a great manager when you can't figure out how you're going to put gas in your car. That really does have to be part of your plan.
What is the typical financial arrangement between an artist and an artist manager? Like, how much should an artist manager, an aspiring artist manager, expect to sort of do for free up front, or is an artist paying an artist manager from like the moment they're working together?
I think every situation is unique and different. Like, as an artist, like, are you even making money? Because if you're not making money, then if I manage you, you know what I mean? Then I'm going into a situation knowing if I'm going to work with an emerging artist, that pay is going to look completely different. So for me, it's like you're going in as like doing artist development work to build that artist to a certain point to where you're going to start, you know, getting money as their manager. So like for me, like my business model as an artist management company looks completely different because I'm working with majority of emerging artists. So the reason why we're kind of successful as an artist management company is because I had to pivot and see another opportunity to license hip-hop music and TV and film that allows me to eat and survive and run a company full-time and also develop these artists till they get to a point where they can actually, you know, pay that 10%, 15 or 20% where it actually makes a difference.
Paulette, what about you? How much time?
I think the standard is normally about 20% commission, so it's 20% of what the artist actually receives in their pocket. I think back in the day, there used to be 20% gross, so some managers would get more money than all the band members put together. But I think that practice is moving. Although other practices are coming now where managers are asking for more than 20%, but they're also asking for shares in some of the masters and the copyrights, because there's a lot of work that does go into it, and the artist will continue to generate income down the line, and oftentimes if the manager's no longer in the picture, they're not getting anything more. So it really depends on the terms of the deal. But again, I like rule of thumbs. Generally, it's 20% of what the artist receives. But again, if it's an up and coming artist, the manager needs to know how they're going to survive themselves, and as the manager, they need to know how the artist is going to survive. So I need to know what your part-time job is. What is your part-time hustle? Are you working in a restaurant? Are you working in a bar? Are you teaching? Because unless I've got money to bankroll you, it's not going to work. So I need to, what is your investment in yourself? And if your investment means you've got to be stacking shelves in your grocery store in order to enable you to do music part-time, then that's part of our business plan. So we sit down and we work out the business plan in the same way that I need to know that I'm doing enough consultancy work to generate enough income to cover what I need whilst I'm also developing, you know, putting the rest of my time into you. So it's all part of the bigger business plan. You go and stack shelves, I'll do consultancy, and we'll work this together until the income can cover enough for both of us.
And just to add on to what Paulette was saying, I think also managing expectations around what your availability of time is when it's an artist that's not generating revenue, and you still have to work on other things that are revenue generating, so you can work on the thing that's not revenue generating. Your time is going to be different.
Okay, I have two quick questions, and then I think we'll see if there's any more questions, although I'm getting a wrap-up song. Okay. Katrina, if you had 5 more hours a week, what would you do with it?
Sleep.
Excellent. Paulette?
Spend more time with my husband.
Spend more time with my kids.
See, and these are the women who gave up their time to come here. One more quick question. Do you have a pet peeve as manager, whether it's about how the business is going, it's streaming, it's having to book gigs 2 fucking years in advance now, whatever. Do you have a pet peeve?
I have 2. I have one is CDs. I don't have a CD player, so it's a pet peeve of mine that artists give me CDs. And just like one-liner, like I'm totally open to people sending me emails. I always share that with people, but like don't send me an email that's like one line saying, I'm the dopest shit, listen to this. Like, I want to know who you are. Yes. I want to be engaged. I want to, like, you know, send a pitch or something.
I don't know if it's a peeve, but I think for me it's, if you're going to come to speak to me and you want advice, be honest. Otherwise, you're wasting my time. Just come and be really honest with what you're asking me, and I'll give you a really, really honest answer back. I think if there is a peeve, it's when somebody's asking me for advice, but they've got their own plan of action anyway. It's a waste of my time. If you're not going to listen and you don't want to know, then just leave leave me alone. But if you come asking for advice, then at least take the time out to listen and to heed if you think that I've got something that I can offer.
Pet peeve, long outros.
I wonder if she's looking at anyone in particular. Anybody have any quick questions?
Ativan for you? Like
Helping the artist navigate, or for the manager to navigate?
I navigate through the people in my network. If you're my artist and you're leaning on me and I'm giving a lot, I also need to know that I have a network that I can lean on. Mm-hmm. And that's really, really important to me. So the people that are around me in my network are really, really important for my sanity, for my mental health, for my life and time and everything else. So family and close friends, that's what keeps me grounded. And when I need to... I need to know that I've got somebody that I can call just to release the pressure, and then I'm back with my manager face on, as good as gold. You wouldn't know the difference. Mm-hmm. But I do need to have friends around me for the release valve. It's really important that you let them know that you're looking for management if you're actually looking for management. I sometimes get emails and I haven't got a clue what the person wants because they haven't specifically said what they're looking for. Do you want me to come to a show? Are you looking for me to manage you? Are you looking for me to co-manage you? You're just looking for some advice? There's just not enough clarity in it. So I think be really clear about what it is you're looking for so that they can reply accordingly, and then that saves a lot of time.
I just like to have information, so links. I like to be able to do my own kind of research, but send me your Instagram, send me your Facebook, send me your SoundCloud or your Spotify, wherever you are. I just love a nice introduction, a little bit about yourself, and then direct me to places where I can find more information.
In the UK, we have the Music Managers Forum that I'm not a member of yet, but I think that that's definitely a place that you can find managers. But I think outside of that, for example, grime is just gone buck wild in the UK, and all those grime artists have managers that are not part of the circuit, they're not part of the network, they're family members or brethrens or bona fide cousins or something. So there is a whole new generation of managers that are coming through on the back of the music that's coming through, and I'm now seeing that those new managers are now starting to receive awards because those artists that they're managing are breaking through and they're having chart success, and they're making hundreds of thousands of pounds, and they're selling out tours all outside of what is the established music industry. So I think with each new generation and each new genre, there should be an influx of people that just have such a passion for that music that they'll sit and they'll work with it and they'll become the managers of the future. So for me, I think watch the new music, and wherever you find the new exciting music, you will definitely find the new managers. But sometimes they don't classify themselves as such. So you have to just find out who are you working with, who does your stuff, because they might not naturally call themselves a manager because they might not see themselves in that way. But I think follow the music and you'll find the new managers.
That's a really good point too. I mean, I know there are people producers in Nashville who are kind of fulfilling the role.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I think
the title is changing, just in the way the term producer is changing. Are people still using the term composer? What does it mean to get funds when some artists don't know what a fund is, but they know, do you need some money? I think language is so important, and I think we just got to explain what it is we actually mean and stop sticking to the terms and the labels, because they're now quite fluid.
And I think the industry has changed. I mean, it's always evolving, and things are just becoming more and more accessible. So I think there's a lot of artists who are self-managed. So they are maybe not looking at themselves as a manager. Maybe they're not managing other artists, but they are artist entrepreneurs, and they're managing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big trend, and that's a lot of what the new program we announced is about, is just for artists or industry who are starting to try and give them some tools right from the word go, so that they do have access to all the information they need to either manage other people or manage themselves.
I do think, really quick, another trend is management services. So I know a lot of times I have artists that are on my roster that I manage full time, but sometimes there's artists who are self-managed and they just need some help through a project. And so, we'll work together just on like a project basis. And I've noticed that that's definitely become a trend as well. So there may not be as many managers coming through, but there's definitely more people providing management services.
Yeah. Is that when they do it for a fee?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm finding that as well.
Yeah.
People are paying for somebody to manage them for 6 months at a monthly rate.
Well, or it can just also be for a project, like if a release.
Yeah.
It's
All right. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you.